Electricity. It's the energy that powers our lives in modern America. From high-tech factories to the quality time that binds families together, electricity is there. And every time you flip a switch or plug something in, you are instantly connected to an immense system that has been designed, built, and maintained for only one purpose: to deliver electricity to you at exactly the moment you need it. This system may have its start hundreds of miles away from where you use it, but electricity literally flows from one end to the other the instant you're connected. At first glance, the electric system may seem like a complicated, confusing network of equipment, wires, and poles. But in reality, it can be broken down into three main segments: generation, transmission, and distribution. To start with, electricity is generated or created using one of two methods: thermal or renewable. Exactly how electricity is made may seem complicated, but it isn't. We've all seen steam billowing up from water that's boiling on a stove. The first step of creating electricity in a thermal power plant is to make steam on a huge scale. This is done by creating superheated water that is running in pipes around and through a heating source until it becomes steam, very high-pressured steam. The steam is then injected into a unit called the turbine, which on the inside looks like a jet engine on steroids. When the steam hits the blades of the turbine, it makes them spin around, much like a windmill, but at thousands of RPMs. The turbine is connected by a shaft to what is called the generator, and when it turns, electricity is created. Renewable generation does not make electricity from steam. Their generators are turned by water or wind. Hydro plants use the force of flowing water to create electricity. Their generators are located inside a dam. Wind generators make electricity from the force of blowing wind. The giant blades are connected to a generator that is located behind them in the nacelle. Solar generation is a bit different from all the others in that it doesn't have a spinning generator. Solar power is made from a chemical reaction. The light from the sun heats tiny particles called electrons in the panels. When the electrons get hot, they start popping around, like when you make popcorn. All that energy popping around is captured to make electricity. Some question why we have thermal generation when we can get electricity from the wind, water, and sun. The answer is we need electricity all of the time, not just when it's windy or sunny. Thermal generation is always there, no matter what the weather. Except for solar, all other types of power plants create electricity from a piece of machinery called the generator. In big power plants, when electricity is made, it is very strong, somewhere around 18,000 volts. But in order for it to economically make the long trip from the power plant to where it is used, electricity must be stepped up or made much stronger. This is done by a huge transformer at the power plant. Here, electricity is increased in power, usually to a strength between 69,000 and 345,000 volts. Once this is done, electricity is ready to be transported to where it will be used, but that could be hundreds of miles away. This part of the electric system is called the transmission section. Think of it as a great big superhighway that carries electricity instead of cars and trucks. So remember, anytime you see transmission lines, they are transporting very high-powered electricity. After electricity travels through the transmission lines, it is getting close to its final destination. The segment of the electric system between the transmission lines and where it is used is called the distribution section. Remember, when electricity left the power plant, it was stepped up in volts or made very powerful for the long trip. Before it can travel through the distribution segment of the electric system, it must be stepped down or made less powerful in volts. This is done at a place called a substation. Here is where it is converted to distribution voltage, which normally ranges between 2,400 and 24,900 volts in strength. Once electricity leaves the substation, it still may have several miles to go before it gets to the end user. The distribution section of the electric system can either be overhead lines, which we've all seen dotting the landscape, or they can be underground lines, which are buried. One of these types of lines will bring the electricity to you, but before you can use it, it must be stepped down in volts one more time. This is done at the transformer. Perhaps you've seen one of these near your house. The transformer reduces electricity from the high voltage of the distribution lines to the 120 volts that powers most of the devices we use in modern life. Without all three segments of the electric system working in perfect synchronization, electricity cannot make the complete trip from creation to end use. When just one part of the system goes down, it creates what are known as outages. This can be caused by weather-related incidents, equipment failures, or system damage. The next time your lights go out, it would be good to remember that the problem could be anywhere between you and a power plant. This overview of the electric system has just touched on the basics. It's intended to give you a fundamental idea of how the system works to deliver electric power to you. But knowing how it gets to you is just part of the story. It is very important that you know how to be safe around electricity, because it can cause severe injury or death if it is not treated with the utmost respect. Here are a few tips to stay safe around electricity. First, don't ever lift anything tall around overhead lines. Things like ladders, antennas, poles, anything. These lines are not insulated, and if anything touches them, it becomes energized. This could result in devastating burns or instant death for anyone nearby. Rather than ending up in this place before your time, stay away, far away from overhead lines when you are lifting anything. The next time you are riding down the road and see linemen working on electric lines, notice how they always use extreme caution and protective gear around electric wires. And they are professionals, so don't put your life on the line. Always respect electric lines. Stay away from substations and keep children from playing in or near them, and that includes flying kites close to them as well. Substations contain very deadly voltage. If you see a tree that has electric lines running through it, do not try to trim it and keep children from climbing in it. The tree can conduct electricity, and the shock could be devastating. Call Houston County Electric Cooperative and let the professionals take care of it. If you ever see an electric line laying on the ground, don't go near it, and keep others away from it too. It could be energized, and touching it could cause dire consequences. This demonstration should give you a good idea of the kind of power these lines have running through them, and the destructive result electricity would have on the human body. So just to be clear, electric lines are something to respect and avoid. In your house, you also need to be careful with electricity. When you're in the bathroom or kitchen, keep anything that plugs in, like tablets, phones, hair dryers, or flat irons away from water. You could get a real shock. And yes, people die needlessly from incidents like this more often than you think. If you have infants or toddlers at home, cover your electric sockets with safety caps like these, and don't ever stick anything in them except a plug. Remember, electricity is truly a modern marvel that is power for your way of life, but it can have serious consequences if you are not careful around it. So the next time you flip a switch or plug something in, you'll know exactly where electricity comes from, how it gets to you, and how to be safe around it.